Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you are doing well and you are ready for today's program. So today on the show we have Nathan Evans. He is managing editor of Popzara.com. If you haven't heard about them, where have you been? They do everything from books, movies, animes, TV shows, video games, of course, reviews, tech reviews, a little bit of crossover there, but everyone highly encourage you to go check that out. Nathan and his crew of very willing and very knowledgeable people review, do everything from video game numbers and movie reviews. They're great team. Help us out with a lot of events and things like that, and highly encourage you to go check that out. But before we do that, computeramerica.com, it will have everything, including links to any articles that we talk about here today, links to our guest website, links to, well, anything you hear on the program. So if you're driving, if your hands are busy, if you're caught in the airport, it's okay. We got you back. You can, of course, just head on over to computeramerica.com to find all of that. So without further stalling for time, let's go ahead and bring on the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Nathan Evans. Nathan, how you been?
Ben, as you know, here and there, literally. So thanks for having me back on. So I want to apologize. If you hear any bad music or call signs in the back, yours truly is broadcasting from an airport. That's right. I'm traveling. I'm a traveling man. Been all over the world.
And you sound pretty good, so we're going to forgive the occasional, flights leaving, terminal, gate, whatever. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and just have fun with, fun with our segment. And but before we get started, how you been? Obviously it sounds like it's been a hectic month, and hopefully you're doing well.
Well, I mean, you and I have talked in the past, so we both have. Let's just say, no family's perfect, and you deal with things. But I want to tell your listeners a little PSA. So, if you're traveling and you want to get some work done, find a remote spot where it either smells real bad, or at one of the budget airlines like Spirit or JetBlue. Find a plug, sit your butt down there, and don't move because you'll have to fend it off like wolves. They all want your plug and they want your nice space. So, but it's yours.
I know that one of the cruelest pranks I've seen is people who put those stickers, those decals of outlets right there on the wall, so they look like imitation plugs. Definitely get a lot of people with those. Yep. So everyone, Nathan, I think with just in respect to time and that kind of thing, let's go ahead and just jump right into a number of the articles, and I'll let you choose where we start.
I will, but I have one more thing I got to say. I want to tell you this. This is the first time I've flown in 2.5 years, where I didn't have to wear a mask.
Nice.
And no politics aside, how you feel about these things. Generally speaking, I've been through a lot of the major terminals, a lot of the big connectors in Washington and all that. It's overwhelmingly mask free. So that's a first eye view. But Ben, I have never seen people so happy and smiling, like, oh, sir, we're gonna have to go over here. We're gonna have to pat you down. Oh, it's no problem. Pat away. Oh, sorry, you have to come over here. Oh, take your time. Everybody's just so happy that they don't have to wear those things. It's so different. The atmosphere is so different. They're so happy for delays.
I'm sure that I'm sure that a lot of people are, especially people who worked at the airport who had to wear masks for years on end. I'm sure they're very happy to see that kind of go away as well. So I'm glad that you're able to fly and you're flying in comfort. That's always great. Although of course, depending on what airline, that may end soon as well. Let's go ahead and I'll let you decide where we kind of start with this, because we have some big headlines today.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, let's just get this out of the way real quick. There's basically one story and everything else. And you know what that one story is. It's not only is it the biggest tech story of the week, it's the biggest tech story of the decade. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm assuming
Elon Musk.
No, Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie. No, I'm just kidding. It's Elon Musk. I've done a mea culpa on Mr. Musk. We've talked about this. Like many people, I consider him a fraud and I consider him a shyster. But he has come around. He's changed his ways. He's done some interesting things. And while I don't agree with everything he does or says, you got to admit that he's a man of action. And regardless how you feel about him politically or his ideology or if he even has one, but the fact of the matter is he's interesting. And I told you, I'm a big fan of interesting billionaires. And he did an interesting thing this week or the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, for everyone who needs a complete catch up, like about 2 weeks ago, he offered to, there were rumors that Elon Musk wanted to buy Twitter, and then like a day later, he said, "I put in an offer," and then about a week later, they have, by all reports today, they have they're nearing a deal to complete the acquisition, and Elon Musk put up tons of Tesla shares and got support from other places, and essentially is going to take the whole company private for $44 billion. It's pretty crazy.
It's really interesting because there's more to the story that could be boring, but the fact of the matter is Musk just didn't buy it. He infiltrated it in the open. He put out cryptic tweets. Oh, should I make a new one? Should I do this? Should I do that? And then eventually he shocked the world by buying 9% or 9% of the shares in the company. Yeah, enough to get, and you can, if you could watch this in real time, you could see how he's so much better at this than anybody else I've ever seen. He's so much better at playing the media than anybody I've ever seen before. Because let's be honest here, I don't want to get into politics, but let's be fair. If you run a tech blog, if you run a tech blog that associates with IPOs or tech startups, you probably lean more liberal. And therefore your perspective is that, oh, Elon Musk, he's going to do this and that. You probably haven't seen the censorship that's been happening on social media. You probably haven't felt it. You probably don't know anybody because you live in a bubble and the world revolves around you. But for the other half, they've experienced a lot of trauma in the last couple of years. I don't just mean conservatives. I mean people, even myself. I've had to watch my language here because I don't know what the appropriate language is anymore. Right. I don't know what's verboten or not. But he joined the board.
Yeah. And I just want to say that, just to your first point, that no one plays the media quite like Musk. That's why, like, whenever on the show, like, there has been Rivian and there's not Tesla, but Faraday was another, kind of electric car startup. Like, all these other electric car startups that want to be like the next Tesla. I'm like, they can have all the, all the capital, all the funds, all the technology, blah, blah, blah. But, Elon Musk has had relentless and constant media coverage for the last 10 years, and he barely managed to make Tesla a success. Like, there were times when it was going to go under within, weeks. And I'm like, that's one thing that Elon Musk does better than anyone else, any other CEO, is that he has a way of, completely dismantling his PR, the PR part of his company. He puts out a tweet, he says something, and suddenly everyone talks about him, and no one else can do that like Elon Musk. I will give him credit for that.
Well, he's a student of Donald Trump. I don't mean politically, but he's a student of way to manipulate the media using social media and being provocative. And as far as his influence goes, he's very similar to I think in both vision and maybe application, someone like Steve Jobs. You don't look at Jeff Bezos and see innovation. You don't look at Bill Gates and see innovation. You look at Musk, and he's cut from the same cloth. You know this. This is a man. This is a man who will go on Joe Rogan and smoke a stogie, or go on a podcast and drink power or tweet directly to senators. He's different. He's arrogant in a way that I think is interesting to people. The way most millionaires and billionaires aren't. You see the way he spends money, right?
Yeah.
In parlance, you get the Rockefellers and you have the Carnegies. The Rockefellers would buy up the oil fields, they eliminate competition, they price gouge, and they keep the money, right? But then you have the Carnegies who would give the money to museums, and they direct, museums and endowments, and they're more culturally driven. In the modern day, you have people like Bill Gates or Zuckerberg, who, let's be honest here, can I be charitable? They set up money laundering schemes with charities. Like, I'm going to give all my money to charity. Yeah, the Bill Gates charity. That's like me making a charity called the Nathan Evans charity and giving all my money to charity so I can tax write off. It's ridiculous. I don't think Musk does that. He kind of insults good people sometimes.
Musk has definitely been, I think, a very open during this whole. Very open during this whole acquisition, and there's even been a lot of stories and rumors, and like I say open, but like obviously the talks and communications behind the scenes are not completely privy, but we have seen articles like, and this is what I'm going to pose you next, we've seen articles like obviously firing people, obviously hiring influencers much like TikTok to create content, monetizing tweets and monetizing embeds, kind of doing this, that, and the other. My question to you, Nathan, is it's one thing that he's doing this. It seems like almost a done deal at this point. But next, how does Twitter change? What do you think happens after this goes through?
I've also you can quote me here. I've said before that Twitter was possibly the worst run company I've ever seen. Like it's clearly the worst run social media company. This is a company that squandered its potential. It destroyed trust in people. It eliminated innovation. And Jack Dorsey was the most incompetent leader I've ever seen on a major tech company. He's horrible. He's terrible. And you can feel this because he left to do cryptocurrency. And I think he's since aligned himself with Musk, because I think Musk planned. There's something going on between Dorsey and Musk. You know this. I don't know. I'm not a Musk advocate. I don't necessarily think he's the savior of anything, but he's interesting in the fact that he does have a track record of buying companies and making them more self-aware in the culture. Does that make any sense? Mm-hmm. There have been electric cars before Tesla, but the biggest innovation of Tesla was not the car itself. The car itself is mediocre in many respects. It explodes. I wouldn't want one. But what he did, though, he kept his promises that he made the patents for how to make an electric car open source. He gave them away. You could use whatever you want. And he promised to do the same thing with the Twitter algorithm. Let me tell you what I think the best part about this whole thing is. I don't care about Twitter. I use Twitter sometimes. I recognize what it is. I think it's more valuable than Facebook. I think Facebook is a disease, and I think you shouldn't be using Facebook. I think Facebook has no real value unless you're selling something or looking for lost children. But as far as a day-to-day communication device, I think Facebook is not worth the effort. But Twitter allows you to be a little more communicative. It allows you to have goals. I think it's better for things like call to action.
Right.
And whether you like it or not, we saw the last few years have been very revolutionary as far as activism goes. So they primarily use Twitter as the beacon for that, and it's been very helpful for them, regardless how you feel about it. But you also see the bad people at Twitter abusing that privilege. Again, mostly under Dorsey. You had restrictions. You had recidivism of people their accounts being disabled. You had accounts being flagged, shadow banned. You had users being banned for really no reason, just by association. That's not something we're supposed to do. People would use the excuse, "Oh, it's a free company." We've had this discussion. It's a free company; they can do what they want. No, they can't. They have to abide by the rules too. And you saw they were threatening. What is it? Section 730? What is it?
230.
230. Now, I never thought that should be. I don't want the government regulating, but that's how bad it got to a certain point, because they are a public company, but public companies also engage in contractual contracts with their users. If you're going to put Computer America on YouTube and you follow all the rules and they decide to change the contract on you and you suddenly become demonetized, your business can go out of business because the cultural winds change. And that's not fair to you. That's what a contract is. If you have a lease, the landlord can't change the lease midway and say, "Well, too bad." No, it protects you too. Like, remember this, people. If you sign something, it protects you too. It doesn't just protect the company. Those things have meaning. Trust me, people go to court over this all the time.
Right. So with, and of course, so now that Elon Musk is going to take it private, there's going to be a bit more, people are hoping less answering to shareholders, less reactionary, like he can set rules in place. Do you think some of those rules are going to be, kind of out of the gate, be like,
they've already started.
We're going to unblock, people.
Already done.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people have been banned. Like here's the thing. Once he signaled this wasn't going to happen, there's already been anecdotal evidence of people's users' accounts going up. Like there have been certain banned accounts that have been reinstated. Like he threatened to put Twitter's algorithm, make it open source as well, so everyone could see it. And I think what happened is one of the stories I sent you, if you want to segue into that, is that Twitter, they exaggerated their user count for years.
And again, that is the least surprising thing. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That's what Musk did that was so genius. He lied to Twitter about wanting to be on the board. He bought enough shares so he could get a place, so they could invite him to the board, which gave him access to the entire company and all their records. And then he said, you know what? Nah, I'm good. He lied to them. He abused them. It's hilarious. And then he went ahead and he went public with all what he found. He said most of the users are bots. He said there's malfeasance. He said all this.
Mm-hmm.
He was very open about it. And you'll notice that's being changed because we're going to find out, if we can, that Twitter was abusing their privilege. They were banning people that weren't politically aligned with them. They were shadow banning people. They were promoting things, and they were restricting stories that were disfavorable to donors. Twitter was a rancid company run by rancid people. And that's why if you look right now, I can pinpoint this with more accuracy than pi to the seventh power, that the people that knew about this are angry that their gig is up. They've been exposed.
I'm going to be very curious.
That's bad for them.
Yeah, I'm going to be very curious how Elon Musk and how transparent he is, because once it's a private company, he doesn't have to do diddly when it comes to actually saying we have this many bots, we have this many daily active users, we have this, that, or the other. I am curious if it's going to be a better platform because honestly, again, no politics whatsoever. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, it's not political at all for me.
Well, no, I'm saying that Twitter minus the bots could be a completely different platform, and I'm curious to see what that looks like. Better or worse, I want to see what a Twitter with no bots, because I can't even imagine it.
Well, what they were doing, though, the bots were all almost entirely politically motivated on one side. And you saw a lot of these distraction stories about Russia infiltrating, but that makes up less than 1%. We're talking about political action committees that would buy users. They would buy users and bots to amplify messages that were favorable. And at the same time, they would decrease the messages that were favorable. You know, in journalism, there's something called page 1 story, page 6 retract. It's like they say the salacious story. Oh, Ben Crossman caught in the bathroom with a unicorn. Page 1. Oh no, scandal. And then 3 days later, page 6. We regret we retract the story.
Right.
Like, the damage is done. The damage is done. It's out of the gate, and that's what I think Musk is talking about. He made this big salacious thing where he talked about how the top users never tweet, like they never engage with the platform because it's all about promoted tweets and ads. And I think he said he would get rid of the ads completely.
Yeah, he was looking to change Twitter Blue, which is like their subscription service. He wants to cut out ads. Essentially, he wants to say we don't want the primary revenue of this company to be ad-based. We want it to be subscription-based.
Oh, and you know what's funny? Even before he owned the company, he's discussed more positive changes in the last 2 weeks as a user than anybody at Twitter has done in the last 7 years. Have you noticed that? He's talking about edit buttons. He's talking about verifying real people. Mm-hmm. He's talking about getting rid of bots. Like, he's done so much more than they've ever done. Like, you have to admit, it feels like there's change in the air. And whether Twitter succeeds or not, I mean, this is what someone like Musk does, whether you like it or not. And the closest comparison I can give you, it's not apropos, so don't quote me on this, but it reminds me of when Steve Jobs purchased Pixar back in the mid 80s from George Lucas, and he completely reformed the company and transformed. He didn't change the company. He restructured it, and he reprioritized them as an animation company, and it worked. You saw it. The results speak for themselves. Sometimes all it takes is an outside view, and not necessarily political fairness, because I don't think it's political, but I think you need to enforce the rules you already have. And it's one thing, like, everybody is like, I went to CNN. One of the stories I sent you said Elon Musk to buy Twitter. Right. The very front page is a picture of Donald Trump and Musk. Like, that's how short-sighted these people are. Right. They're only concerned, it's Donald Trump getting it. It's Donald Trump. Maybe Twitter need to be protected from people like you if you're going to use it to target certain people. Like, I don't care if Donald Trump's on Twitter as long as he obeys the rules. I don't care if the Ayatollah Khamenei is on Twitter as long as he obeys the rules. It's not about what I want. It's about proper enforcement. And with all due respect to you people on the left, if you're listening, you don't seem to understand this. The world doesn't work around you. It works for everybody. Someone on the right has the right to use a social media platform too, as long as they're not spewing hate, as long as they're not targeting people, as long as they're not aggressively going after people. They have just as right to use the public services as you do. And that works both ways for both parties.
I kind of feel like Elon Musk is putting up a huge premium because, I mean, we haven't even talked about the price tag, $44 billion. That's huge.
That's a lot.
That is like, one of the biggest acquisitions in tech that we've ever seen. And the fact that it's, kind of an all cash deal from one person, that's amazing. But I'm kind of curious to see, one of the reasons why this story here, they've accidentally overstated user numbers, for so many years, and the fact that they, do ad revenue, and the fact they do this, Nathan, I feel like a lot of that is they did have to answer to shareholders. They had to make their stock price go up. They had to create value for their investors. And when Musk comes through and buys this thing, takes it private, he doesn't really have to care about that. Like, obviously he wants his investment to go up, but he doesn't really have to care about a stock price.
Well, think about this though. When Elon Musk offered to buy the company, the shareholders are obligated. I'm sorry, the board is obligated to bring that offer to the shareholders, and instead they fought him. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is how rancid and how deep the rot runs on Twitter. They literally violated their own sense of duty to keep Elon Musk from doing this. There's talk about people crying about board members. They were crying. They were worried about their jobs. They were doing this. They weren't running the company like a public company. They were abusing that trust. And again, what good is a public company if they're not going to be bound to the duty of their shareholders to get a good profit, to think in the shareholders' best interest? The board, oh goodness, the board is, what did they do, Ben? What was the main investor from, was an investor from Saudi Arabia that actually had to buy out shares, and they were going to liquidate the stock with a poison pill. Like, they were so desperate to keep Elon Musk from doing this. It's ridiculous. That's not how you run that's not how capitalism works. That's not how a company works. Like, that's you and me banding together to keep the bad guy. That's like the plot of every 80s movie. You're not going to tear our house down. We're going to fight you. It's Home Alone. But that's not how companies run. Like, what Musk did is exposed how badly this company was not only run, but how bad the ideology there was. This is why the company stagnated. This is why there's no growth. That's why they allowed the bots. This is why they allowed the political malfeasance. And this is why they were never regulated, because they always worked in the right direction. I'm sorry, but
no
thanks.
And we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the Twitter thing, because obviously this will, I'm sure by the time by the time you're on the show next, this deal will likely go through, and we'll start to see some of those changes. I have a feeling that Musk is kind of like a presidential candidate, where he's like, first day in office, I'm gonna do this, and this. I'm sure we'll see a lot of changes when this finally happens. Between here and next time.
My only view is that I just wish that whatever Twitter becomes, that the enforcement of the policies that, as stated, they can be whatever they want, right? But they have to be enforced with objectivity. Everybody needs to be treated the same. If you violate the rules, your butt is gone. But you can't be that crass. And if that's the change that comes, then that's the change that comes. I don't care who's on the service. If I don't like you, I'm blocking you. That's what it's all about.
There you go. So the title for this show is going to be Nathan Evans Says I Don't Care. That's going to be perfect.
Exactly.
Right there.
I don't care. That's my platform.
There. So and let's go ahead and transition from Twitter acquisition to another acquisition. I think we didn't get a chance to talk about this, or we didn't talk about it much, but it has moved a little bit more, and this is Activision Blizzard shareholders approved the Microsoft takeover. So this is, much like an offer, they 98% approved of the takeover. So by all accounts, unless the Federal Trade Commission or the SEC steps in, Microsoft is going to own Activision Blizzard. And I was wondering, what do you think about all that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because it does take a while. I mean, these things have to go through approval process. They have to make sure there's no, special interest that would, belie the deal.
Right.
This was always kind of a done deal. But what's funny is that a little story came up that no one talked about. And that was a couple weeks ago, that the governor of California was found to be interfering in some of this investigation. And that interference, some people thought, would jettison and maybe even threaten the merger.
Yeah.
And so that's, this is the problem, is that when you have these mergers, when you have these things, it should make a company better. But when you have a company like Activision Blizzard that's in the middle right now, embroiled in sexual assault and racism and all these, different lawsuits alleging this abuse, you have to be transparent. And you can't, to me, Ben, it boggles my mind for the last few years how so many people have gotten away with breaking the law in interfering in abuse allegations openly, and they've gotten away with it. And I never understood that. I really don't. Like, usually in the old days, if you got caught doing that, your butt is gone. The scandal would ruin your career. Now people run on it.
There's been a lot of, and obviously you working in press, you know this as well, that there's been a lot of, I guess, kind of aggressive use of NDAs and force arbitration, that kind of thing, because, you know, it's just one worker, one allegation, no matter how credible it may be, versus a team of lawyers. And man, you can bury that thing up quick. So, well, yeah.
I've always felt this. In the case of like sexual abuse allegations, there should not be any, there shouldn't be any timing involved. They shouldn't allow it to lapse and say it's out of jurisdiction. When it comes to a public company like Activision Blizzard, if there's allegations, those resolutions should be on the record. Don't you think so? Like, they should not be hidden. They shouldn't be hidden. That's like, you remember what happened in New Orleans with Katrina and the levees, right? Yeah. You find out later that shoddy contracting, which they knew about, was papered over. Like, there's like, these things are never secret. Like, somebody always knows. And if you have a public company that's doing payouts and resolutions to, survivors of sexual abuse or sexual harassment, I'm sorry, but those shouldn't be private. Maybe you privatize the name of the individuals, but we have to know they're there. It's just like the Catholic Church. Like, we're gonna have to pay out another 80 million or something else. Like, I'm sorry, but if your company does bad and pays for it, let me know about it, because I don't know if I want to invest in you.
I guess they kind of covered up by saying that, the investigation is still ongoing, and, those investigations that are usually done by third parties can take years. And then, of course, they can be challenged in court and that kind of thing. So they can cover it up by continuing to investigate. And those investigations, especially Activision Blizzard one, took, all of 7-8 years of ongoing problems. It's, these things aren't, like you said earlier, some of these things aren't quick. It takes a while.
Well, at least there's a new Call of Duty coming out, Modern Warfare 2, a remake of a remake.
Well, yeah, I think actually on Call of Duty, they did say this will be the first year without a Call of Duty. And you have talked about video game numbers and things like that. You know how big of a deal it is that there will be no Call of Duty, nice, someone at the front door. That there will be no Call of Duty this year, and how consoles may suffer for that.
Didn't they just announce one?
Didn't they just announce Modern Warfare 2? I mean, Modern Warfare 2 came out last year, right? The remaster?
Oh, goodness. It's so hard to keep track. I'll say this. Let me go ahead and get this for you, because I know Call of Duty is now 2 franchises. It's now the mainline consoles, and it's also the free-to-play.
It's also the Warzone
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me see.
Just yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, and Modern Warfare 2. Which is a sequel, a remake sequel to the original Modern Warfare 2 that came out in 2009. It's coming this year.
Okay,
it's too much money. It's too much money. It's too much money. Like, it's the most profitable game in the world. Like, as far as physical releases go, I don't exactly know how the actual revenue stands up to Fortnite. But let me tell you something. I was at my family's house this weekend. And I was watching my 8-year-old cousin watch YouTube channels of Fortnite music videos that are basically children singing about strawberries, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. I thought I had taken some sort of hallucinogen, but these things are so popular with the preteen set. Like, they just watch videos of, not Fortnite, of people making music videos out of Fortnite and singing to it.
Yeah,
I sound old when I say this, but I'm watching this and I don't understand anything that's going on.
Young person
it's
YouTube,
well beyond me.
Young person YouTube is very different, and because it is so segregated from regular YouTube, I would say that even a lot of people, and you were talking about kind of bubbles earlier. YouTube is the same thing as social media. They'll put you in a bubble. They'll know what you like. They'll serve you what you like. But then when it comes to kind of young person, kid YouTube versus normal YouTube, those two are worlds apart. You wouldn't even recognize it. They're short form, recycled sound effects, videos that make no sense. It's very repetitive, man, and it's weird.
It's really weird, and it seems targeted to 5-year-olds. And I'll tell you this though, it reminds me, if you ever want to see the metaverse in real time, go back and look at Japan in the 1980s, the video game market.
Yeah,
it was like a parallel universe. It's like a parallel universe in Back to the Future, where you can buy video games and women's underwear in vending machines on the sidewalk. It's where the original Nintendo Entertainment System, aka the Famicom, had a modem, and you could download stock tips. You could watch satellite things on your Super Nintendo. It's completely different world, right? And that's what this YouTube world feels like. It's like in my own country, in my own culture, with language I can understand. I don't understand a damn thing. Like they have a little 5-year-old person singing about like, give me that strawberry, give me that raw berry, and they have Fortnite things playing along. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I have no reference. Like I think it's Fortnite, but I don't know. It's like if Baby Shark evolved. Like if Baby Shark and Fortnite mated and had children, it would be this.
Yeah.
And it's so psychedelic. I felt like I was on drugs. I felt like I was having a seizure when I watched it. The colors, the sounds.
There's a whole nother topic here that we would need someone with a degree in this, because honestly, I've talked to people on the show about this, where it's just the development and the problems kids are running into, because back in the 90s and 2000s, myself included, there was an 80% uptick in kids that needed glasses from staring at screens for too long, little things like that. But now it's more of like the short form content, the fact that everything's a minute long or less, what that does to attention span, what that does to so many things. I found it. It's candy for kids and visual candy. But go ahead.
It's brain rot. By the way, it's T code, TIKO. Type in TIKO strawberry. And be careful.
We're not going to play it, but yeah.
No. Although your demographic will definitely change if you play it.
There you go.
Why did I get 1 million? I got 1 million new subscribers, but the demographic is all 4-year-olds. But no, can I tell you something though? Not to insult anybody, but I see children everywhere. Like I can't believe I see babies everywhere. I was at a restaurant the other day, baby in the chair seat watching YouTube video. Babies on the planes watching YouTube videos, watching YouTube. Like the parents have given up. They've given up. Here, watch your damn video. Watch Baby Shark for the billionth time. So it's the #1 video on YouTube. And just watch, and they're consuming, and they have developmental problems sometimes. Like you could tell they can't focus. They're always jittery. They need to have their little digital fix. I don't want to sound old, but you can see this stuff happening in real time. You can see the effect of attention deficit being like inculcated with videos, because the parents don't know what to do. Because what do you do? How do you shut your kid up? Go do math homework.
It's the easiest solution is also the most kind of like addictive and kind of what the kid craves. So the easiest mixed with the most accessible, and it's like you really as a parent just kind of sometimes just say, here's a tablet. I need time to think, and that's where you kind of end up now. I was going to say, did you ever see that Simpsons episode with Danny DeVito where he played Homer's brother? No, I didn't.
And there's two, but the good one, the best one is where Homer's brother, I forget his name, he invents a machine that allows you to hear what babies are thinking.
Oh yeah.
And so so this woman brings up her baby, and the baby just says, blah, 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 blah. And the machine says, I want candy. And the mom's like, and that's all you'll get. It's just, oh my goodness.
Makes sense. So now, with that being said, let's go ahead and transition into some of these other articles. And I wanted to, talk about this one. And tell me this isn't just a disgruntled employee talking about Square Enix, but Square Enix, Yuji Naka. I know what you're going to say. Honestly, I've never even heard of Balan Wonderworld. But
have you heard of you've heard of Yuji Naka though, right?
Sonic, right?
Yeah, Yuji Naka is one of those guys where you feel really sorry for him, because Yuji Naka was a low-level Sega employee that had to convert, he started his career converting arcade games to the Sega machines. And when Sega was trying desperately to compete with Nintendo, they needed a mascot. And with Yuji Naka and his team, they developed Sonic the Hedgehog. And of course, it became a huge phenomenon. But almost immediately, his games were taken away from him. Like if you look at the development of Sonic, okay, we look at Sonic the Hedgehog now as a big movie star and a very different medium, right? Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, I blame some of this. YouTube Fortnite stuff on Sonic, which we can get into later if you want. But the fact is that the kids today aren't really playing the Sonic games as much as they are. Like the fandom of Sonic is enormous, and Yuji Naka gets no credit for this, no credit whatsoever. And he created the Sonic franchise, and he went off to create many other franchises like Billy and the Giant Egg. What was the one with the mother Ivy the Kiwi, and plenty others. There's another one called the Sega Saturn Nights into Dreams, which was supposed to be a new mascot for a Sega console. But no, but eventually the company that was Sega was basically discombobulated. It was taken apart, rebought, reformed, rejoined with Sega Sammy. They're not really, Sega is no longer the company that it was. It used to be a competitor to Nintendo, where it would create franchises and it would nurture them.
Right.
I saw the Sonic 2 movie and I enjoyed it. It's not as good as the first one. We can talk about that later. But they had a big Sega logo and they showed Genesis graphics, like Genesis games, right? And that reminds me, it's like, that's right. Sega doesn't really make anything of value anymore. But Yuji Naka's still doing his thing. He's still, forget the pun, knocking around. Yeah. But apparently what makes this story so interesting is that Square Enix is a Japanese company that really, really, really wants to become successful in the West. So they hired Yuji Naka to do this music game called Balan Wonderland. And I didn't know this at all. This is news to me, but I didn't realize that Square took him off the project. And they basically allowed the team to finish it without him. And he protested. And you don't really see like big developers talking bad about their company and apologizing for how terrible their games are. That's pretty interesting. Like, this is going to be an interesting story. I think he's suing Square Enix now.
Yeah. I'm curious why they actually took him off. I'm guessing it was developmental differences, and he just, he didn't like the way it was going.
He was always notorious for taking his time and perfecting things, like, and making sure the mechanics are good. But Square Enix, again, Square Enix, listen to that. Square Enix used to be Square, used to be Enix. And eventually they had to join together. They're known for Final Fantasy. But if you look at Square Enix now, they're mostly a publisher. And they publish a lot of differently developed games. They're not really a developer like they used to be.
Right.
I'm not quite a big fan of Square Enix for the most part anymore. They don't really produce content I like, so I'm not going to badmouth them. But yeah, it's always exciting to see a new Yuji Naka game.
You're not a fan of Marvel's Avengers and all the Final Fantasy that they do?
No, because it's not really Final Fantasy. It's like a Final Fantasy in name, but it has like nothing holistically attaching it. Like, I don't know how many times a company can remake Final Fantasy VII. Like, yeah,
well,
we're stuck here. We're stuck on a riddle. Well, I mean, I'm not poo-pooing the game itself, but clearly, like, this is a company that the quality control is not what it used to be. Square, for those who don't know, before it was Square Enix, Sony tried to buy the company years ago when the PlayStation was rocking and rolling, and Final Fantasy was the marquee game for it, and they invested a lot into this animation company out of Hawaii. And it produced one film, The Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. It's actually directed by Hironobu Sakaguchi, the guy who actually did the games. And he was so disgusted by what happened to Square. And this is my point. The creator of Final Fantasy was so downtrodden by what the company had become, he left it, and it's like Yuji Naka. He had nothing good to say about Square, and Final Fantasy was taken away from him, and he's gone on to do other things. In fact, he actually created a game for the Apple TV, Apple Arcade. Fantasian, yeah. I think it's called. It's a like a Japanese role-playing game with dioramas. It's very pretty. If you want to see it, go look at it. Came out, but it was exclusive to Apple. But I think Yuji Naka was probably taken off because he wanted to fix the game, and they said we have a release date. We need to meet it, and that sounds.
It looks like, as far as the tweets go, that's exactly what he's kind of writing, saying he wants to improve the game, and they're submitting a game without fixing bugs. And of course, at the very end of this article, they quote him as saying, "I'm deeply sorry to customers who bought what I consider an unfinished Balan Wonderworld." So, yeah, it's.
Do you know what auteur theory is in film?
No.
Auteur theory is basically the idea, like, when you see a film like a Steven Spielberg film, a James Cameron film, like, oh, he did everything. No, the idea is that, a lot of people make a movie, right? The key grips, the screenwriters, the producers. But at the end of the day, whose vision is it? Like, do you think anybody could have made Avatar? Anybody could have made Star Wars? And I think you kind of see that auteur theory has its place. Like, when you see James Cameron makes Terminator 1 and 2, but when other people make it, it doesn't work. Yeah. The Marvel movies kind of buck the trend because the Marvel movies are basically Happy Meals. Like, they're sort of mass produced and they're all homogenized. But I think auteur theory used to apply to video games, and it doesn't anymore, where you have like a Shigeru Miyamoto making a Mario and Zelda game, or you have like a Yuji Naka making a Sonic game. But now it's just so homogenized. It's just basically factory work. Here's the game. Here's the engine. Make it work. Oh, it's not ready. That's okay. We'll fix it post-release. That's what they always do. And in some respect, it explains a lot why modern gaming is so disjointed, because there's really, it went from, 2 people making a game, 5 people, 10 to hundreds of people in different studios.
Right.
And there's really nobody singular in command anymore. I mean, that's not the case for everything. You know this. But generally speaking, it looks like Square has become a factory. And
games are such big productions that you're right. You have dozens of people working on the art, dozens working on the systems, on the gameplay, on the monetization, on the blah blah blah. Yeah, of course you need to kind of make them fit together more easily to make it all work. Yeah.
I think a good example of that not happening though would be the game we talked about last month was Elden Ring, a game that is a Japanese game. And give me 1 second, I want to get you the name of the guy because he's starting to blow up. The developer of Elden Ring. His name is Murakami. Hidetaka Miyazaki. Sorry,
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, the other Miyazaki. but there you go. You've heard of Miyazaki, Hayao Miyazaki, the anime director. Like he's like a Walt Disney, right? Like when you hear his name, you kind of expect a lot of quality because he takes forever. But Elden Ring has no DLC. It shipped with relatively few bugs, like relatively few. The game was pretty much complete. It was a complete package because this man knows how to guide a team into making a quality product. And I think the results speak for themselves. It's the highest grossing game of the year, but it's also the highest rated. It's also frustratingly hard. But poor Yuji Naka, I just think he deserves better. I think he deserves better than the way he's been treated. I think he made an iPhone game. I think he's gone off to make his own company again. So he's still around. He's going to be around for a while. He's a good guy. And I feel bad that he had to apologize because in Japan, that means something else. That means a lot more than it means here. And I feel bad that he had to do that.
Yeah. And I got to say that corporate versus kind of artist and video game, that kind of thing, like that's a tale, very, very old. And I'm sure that there are a number of people that could commiserate with him. Now, I did want to jump from, kind of lightly related Sonic news to just straight up Sonic news. You have on your site, anyone out there wants to check it out, and hey, look, a rare yay instead of a editor's choice or something like that. You have up a review for Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on your site. So
the movie,
how was it?
Sure. Can I make one more comment that ties what we talked about into what we're going to talk about?
Please do.
So you remember Superman, the comic strip, right?
Yep.
Like the guys who created him was it Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster? Like they created him for DC Comics as a comic, and they didn't really get residuals or ownership rights. And I remember reading this story years and years later when they left DC and they couldn't get work. It was Stan Lee in the late '60s that actually hired. I think it was Jerry Siegel, and he's like 70 years old. No one would hire him, and he's just there doing backgrounds on Marvel comics. And he got no credit, no residuals, no money. This is a very famous story in comics. And I'm wondering if Yuji Naka is getting any money off Sonic 2. Like Sonic 2 is the highest grossing video game movie in America, one of the highest grossing movies in the world. And it's bucking the trend. People like this movie. The character is vibrant. And I don't know if he's getting a penny from it. And it feels wrong to me. You know what I mean? It feels wrong.
I would be surprised if he was, just the way that Sonic in general and the rights to it and the handling of the IP has been so messy over the past 3 decades. I would be surprised.
It's sad. It's sad because, I don't think he's been associated with the character, but he did create the game. His name was all over it. It was very specific. But have you seen Sonic 2?
I have not even seen Sonic 1.
Well, long story short, and this is going to sound like a slur, but it's not. It's a very generic kids movie. It's a very famous, very predictable plot. Alien comes down, finds a human best friend, is on the hunt from the government, and he's got to survive. It's basically Bumblebee the movie. It's E.T. the movie. It's Mac and Me the movie. It's a lot of, it's the same thing. But what makes the movie work is the performances. What makes the movie work are the 3 central performances. You have, of course, Ben Schwartzman as Sonic, which is a really, really, really good fit. You have, what's the human's name? Goodness gracious, what's his name? He was Cyclops.
James Marsden.
James Marsden, who's had this career renaissance where he's become the predictable Animal Man. So I think he was also in another movie, that cartoon movie. What was it called? Enchanted?
Yeah.
What was that movie called? Do you remember that movie with Amy Adams?
Enchanted or Tangled or Enchanted?
Enchanted. Oh. Yeah, Enchanted, where he played Prince Charming, the cartoon who comes into New York and he turns into a human.
Oh yeah.
It was a good movie. But no, this is the first, especially the first Sonic. It nails everything. it might be generic, but generic's not bad when it's done well, right? Even the best hamburger is still a hamburger, right? It's just how it's made. And Ben Schwartzman did a great performance, and very famously, the character was recreated after fanfare. You remember when the initial trailer came out?
I remember the disgusting, quote unquote, realistic version that they put out first, which was might just go down as some of the best viral marketing ever.
Yeah, and the first movie was it was a lot of what ifs, like, is the movie going to succeed? It was produced by the guy who did Deadpool, remember? And it turns out the fanfare came out, but the real MVP of the two movies, frankly, is Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik.
Right.
And he's awesome. Like, if you grew up with Jim Carrey, if you like Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura, if you like Jim Carrey and Liar Liar and Dumb and Dumber, you want that wacky, not pretentious painting Jim Carrey. If you want wacky comedy genius, then Sonic the Hedgehog is a Christmas present to you. You never thought you'd see it again. He's so good in the first movie. He's really good in the second movie. Trust me, he's really funny. But damn, that he's really damn good in the first movie. He is a cartoon character come to life. And he's 60 years old.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So, and I know that in our notes we had kind of mini review, so we can go ahead and just say that if anyone out there wants to hear the full review, of course, there's a podcast associated with this, as well as the article that you've written here. But just, kind of overall, you have generic kids movies, so like a yay. So like for what it is, you think it's good.
The second movie is a little different because it's starting to do the strange mythology of Knuckles and Tails and all that. But it's still good, and Idris Elba is really good as Knuckles. So good that I believe they're giving him a spin-off TV show, kind of like what happened with Peacemaker on the Suicide Squad. And you saw Peacemaker, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Did you think it was the funniest show you saw here, or did you just think it was just funny?
I mean, it was good. Just another one.
Did you laugh? Did you laugh?
It was good. It was good.
Okay. But you understand, like, that's kind of the new normal now. Like, movies and TVs are interlinked, like with the Marvel stuff. You didn't need to see Suicide Squad to enjoy Peacemaker. And I'm wondering, I hope the same is with Knuckles, because he did a really good performance as Knuckles.
There you go.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and kind of leave that one there. And again, you can find that in the show notes. We'll have a link to that, or popzara.com as well. So looking at some of our other things to kind of keep the show under an hour, we have like another about 12 minutes or so. I wanted to talk about this one real quick. And I think, kind of the way that you said CNN earlier, I'm sure that you're going to love what happened here. And honestly, for everyone out there, like not even like, and we've said this like 15 times this show so far, not political, but this I would say is a victory for everyone out there who thinks, wow, another streaming service. This is a victory for everyone else out there.
This is a money laundering scheme, because I don't understand how anybody in charge of this, right? Like, this is one of those things. It's, again, let me quote The Simpsons to you, okay? Let me quote The Simpsons. Another Simpsons with Danny DeVito, ironically, where Danny DeVito hired his brother to invent the perfect car. And under no circumstances should Homer Simpson have been designing a car. And so if you gave me 30 million, to hell, you gave me $30, I could come up with a better streaming service for you than CNN Plus. Let's say this, CNN, the lowest ranked cable news station. Like, you probably get more listeners than CNN. I probably get more listeners than CNN. Nobody watches these shows. Like, the only people who watch CNN are people who are trapped in an airport. That's it. Nobody's, John Lemon's on.
Wonder where you are. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact of the matter is that low ranked show, right? No influence. Let's go ahead and make a paid streaming service. So let me ask you a question. That's like, what's your least favorite food?
What
food do you not like? You really hate? What do you hate?
I root baklava. Freaking baklava, dude.
Okay. Well, you're wrong. But baklava. Let's say you hate baklava. So what if you went to the store and said, "Oh, I really hate baklava, but I bet if I buy $20,000 baklava, I might like it." That's what CNN Plus was. You can't get people to watch the free version, so you're going to make them subscribe to a slightly longer version. Who thought that was a good idea? Who thought that?
I think that the part that kind of got me was that, CNN, even if no one watches them, they did have, kind of a kind of a pillar. Like, they have their base programming with their pundits and all that kind of thing. And like, there was no way to watch CNN on CNN Plus, and then they filled it with personalities that were never seen on CNN. It was so weird that you have this service, and like, they could have rebranded it under anything else other than CNN, and no one would think this had anything to do with CNN.
Well, it wasn't just CNN. It wasn't just that, though. It's that the people they picked to do the celebrities, they were all 100% from the same political persuasion. They were low-ranked show people who did low-ranked Twitter accounts, who had low-ranked social media presences that all regurgitated the same thing. So you can go on Air America. You can go watch Podcast One, like one of the liberal, like the very liberal-oriented podcasts, for free, and you can get a better show than paying for CNN Plus. It's ridiculous. I don't understand how this happened. I can't imagine anybody thought this was a good idea. Do you know how many subscribers they had? Did you see the number of subscribers they had?
No, actually,
2,000 for a 30
I guess that's
million.
why they decided to shut it down early, because they're like, hey, why are we spending $1 million a day when we're only going to piss off 2,000 people?
So but here's my other question to you. Like, you saw what happened with Twitter when we got a peek behind, we revealed the shenanigans, right? The bots and the low ranks. I wonder how many people are actually watching CNN. Like, I wonder how many people are actually watching. Like, why are you paying Don Lemon $30 million so it's 50,000 people can watch them? No offense, YouTube videos get seen more than that. Like, what's the attraction? The ads? Like, how are you making this money? Like, where's it going? Nobody's watching.
I am curious, and you are in media as well. Like, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors when it comes to media, and especially traditional media when it comes to radio and television, things like that. The internet and the digital age have definitely changed what it means to have accurate numbers. Because Arbitron is, they're trying their best, but you can't beat digital platforms. I'm sure all traditional media, they can claim X amount, but I'm sure all traditional media is kind of floundering right now.
Think about this. Think about this for a second. Joe Rogan's on Spotify. He's a video podcast, right, on Spotify. Spotify pays him $100 million. CNN Plus, $30 million went off the air in 20 days, maybe less than 20 days. So he gets 26 million, 30 million viewers, right, or listeners. Like, CNN gets 2,000. They must have known the numbers were going to be weak, right? Like, I would love to see the justification. Somebody got ripped off. This is like, do you remember that Mel Brooks movie, The Producers? Yes. Like, where they decide they can make more money with a flop. That's what I think happened, because you'll notice that CNN, Zucker, I think his name was, he left the company. He was replaced by the guy from Stephen Colbert. Yeah. I think that's what happened. I think he created a giant money laundering scheme. He literally suckered the company out of money. He took his cut because of before performance came in, and he got out while the getting's good, and he left the company high and dry with a stinker. And I don't know what else to explain why this happened.
So you think that the head of this whole thing was like, give me a budget, give me a team, I'll put something together and it'll be great. And he paid himself exorbitantly. He paid off his team, and the whole thing just wasn't that great. Yep.
And they knew it. Like, there's no evidence, Ben. I'm sorry. There's no evidence anybody ever wanted this stuff. I mean, based on the numbers right now, they shouldn't have greenlit it. Like, there was no value in this. And I mean, think about it. I think the results speak for itself.
I think that whoever did the market research and said that people want CNN Plus might be the same people that did their 2016 election polling numbers.
I think somebody was at dinner. And said, "Well, the numbers are in. Everybody I know says they'd pay for it. Yeah, everybody you know is your dog." It's like, no, it's. I'm not mocking. Look, I'm sorry if you lost your job, but the fact of the matter is,
I'm not really, though, because I will say that one thing that I did like that CNN did about through all this was that they paid everyone who is going to be transitioned back into CNN 3-month severance package, and while they kind of reorganized, and everyone who they're letting go, they gave them 6 months. So even though it was only up for about a month, everyone's getting a paycheck for the next half year, and that's something at least.
But there's something else, though. There's one final thing about this story that no one has talked about, and I really wish they would, and that is the trust in media. These are people that don't report anymore. Like, CNN does it, Fox does it, they all do it. But these are people that tell you that you're wrong if you don't agree with them. These are people that share objection and they share opinion. So if they make this type of catastrophic bad choice in their own professional life, what gives them any credibility to give you professional advice? Like, what's the guy's name? Not Ramsey. Who's the guy who does the stocks? Like his stocks.
Kramer.
Yeah, Kramer. And he's like, he's my go on the stocks. Yeah, every stock he picked this year was a disaster. People lost billions. Like, again, going back to Elon Musk, like he predicted that Netflix's stock would crash because he called it the woke mind virus. Netflix would spend hundreds of millions of dollars making programming that there was no market for. Nobody wanted these shows. Nobody's asking for a $30 million live action remake of an anime. Nobody's asking for that. And what happens, Ben? They do 2 episodes and they cancel it. So they invest $30 million for 2 episodes and they cancel it. And then what do? They raise the cost of your Netflix. Like they keep hemorrhaging money, making content that there's no market for, that no research says there's market for. There's no punishment. You as the user gets punished. Netflix can do that because they already have your money. They already have your credit card. But CNN can't do that because they're a new service.
I will say that I just think. And I was going to say that, back in 2019, 2020, everything was about, of course, politics and, the election, all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. In 2020 to 2021, it was all about pandemic and coronavirus and that kind of thing. And even into 2021. Mm-hmm. Nathan, we could, I wish that this show, the show that we do, I wish it was a little bit more financial based because in the early part of 2022, everything's been about stocks and finances and acquisitions and money because, there's even a story that we're not going to get to about Amazon and the fact that it's seen its first loss since 2015. And,
I don't use the word loss. I use the word adjustment because let's be honest, it's an adjustment because of where they were compared to where they are. It was never going to sustain that. That. Right. It was never going to stay that high.
Right. So but my point is that, kind of what's happening in the broader world affects tech in so such an acute way that finances seem to be a big part of what's affecting tech this year and, for so many. Now, I'm going to gloss over all of that and I'm going to go ahead and usher you along just a little bit because we're going to get this wrapped up. Our last story is one that I actually need. And let's see if I actually have, if I actually have my phone here and for everyone out there that can kind of see down there in the corner, I actually went to the gym, which is, I never do that, I actually went to the gym for once. Good. I know. And I set my keys down, tried to miss my phone. My keys actually hit my phone screen perfectly the one spot where I don't have a screen protector because it has the notch where the camera is. It hit it, it spidered, and, I now have a cracked phone screen. So that's my best transition into our next story. And Apple doing something that they're so adamant against.
I saw that, yeah.
And now they're transitioning to people fixing their own iPhones. This is crazy.
I couldn't believe it. Like the apocalypse happened. Like Apple, gas, trust you to fix your own phone. Think about it. It's a money-saving thing. You had retractions at Apple stores, staffing issues all around. It was predicated by, they started allowing third-party companies access the tools. I told you, I had the last Mac Mini that I could open up and upgrade. And so I upgraded the RAM, upgraded the hard drive. It was great. I eventually sold that Mac Mini for twice what I bought it for because of that feature. But Apple's you can't touch your own stuff. Remember, you can't open it. You can't touch anything. And even if you could, we soldered everything. So booyah. But now they're sending you the tools. What's the name of the actual tool? The Open Apple thing? What's the name of it?
The whole thing is self-service repair store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest with you though, Ben, to be quite honest, I think this is more perfunctory because I think the average Apple person doesn't want to bother fixing their own stuff. That's kind of why they bought an Apple product. So let's be fair. A PC person is going to tinker with that. They're going to iFix it. They're going to break down. They're going to see if it blends. They're going to throw it in a microwave. They're going to drop it in the bathtub. Apple people are my phone is a toaster, right? My iPhone's a toaster. I dropped it. Go get a new one. That's the Apple personality. This is true. This. That's why they have Apple Care and everything. So yes, no, but thank you.
I gotta say that. I gotta say that myself. I have replaced more phone screens than I care to admit for myself and family and friends and that whole thing. Buying those random parts off Amazon that have like 3 reviews and they promise it works for your mobile phone. Sometimes it doesn't. Nope. They don't send you all the tools. I'm happy Apple's doing this. I'm sure that it's still going to be 3 times the cost of what those random storefronts are on Amazon. But
it's magical.
It's something. It's something.
You scared the hell out of me though, because I have a new iPhone. I got the iPhone SE 2022 because I got a good deal on it, and I have the nice case for it, but I don't have the screen protector yet. So I went on a cross country trip with it. So I'm waiting for the cracks to appear.
It was crazy. Like I set my keys down and from my hip to the floor, because I set my phone on the floor and then I set my threw my keys on the floor, 3 feet. Hit it just the right angle, shattered it. I don't even know how. And again, I have the screen protector on it, and you can kind of see that the only part where it's not protected is around the earpiece. Oh my God, I could not do that again if I tried. Freaking heck! That's all I have to say.
But you don't try. It's serendipity. It's like the phone gods are like, oh, this spot's unprotected. This will teach Ben not to have a screen protector. That's how it works. You know this.
I don't know any screen protector that actually protects the part that the keys hit. So everyone out there, be super careful. Apple now doing this. It says that they'll rent you tools for $50 a week. And I don't know why they're doing that, but they're doing that.
It should be covered under. You think it part of it be covered under Apple Care though, right? Like Apple Care should still cover something like that. It'd still be cheaper just to send you.
Apple Care will actually just fix your screen or your battery or anything that kind of malfunctions, and they'll even give you a discount on if you break the screen yourself. So Craig is a diehard fan of Apple Care. I thought I could do without it because hey, I have a case, I have a screen protector, why would I ever need Apple Care? Joke's on me, but there you go.
The two biggest innovations left in cell phones, right? The processors are always going to get faster. Batteries, RAM is always going to be bigger. You know this. Yeah. But the 2 things that haven't really changed in 15 years are batteries and screens. It's still a slab of Gorilla Glass. It's still lithium. What they need to do is figure, when you create a battery that's the size of a quarter that can hold 40 days of charge, and you have a screen that can withstand a toilet seat and a hammer, then we're going to talk about innovation. But instead, you have this wonderful piece of technology inside, silicon, wrapped around this outdated antique sandwich. And that's the problem. And that come back to me, find the super, do you ever see Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, where they go back and save the whales? And,
no.
Okay. Bizarre movie, but it's really popular. It's where a alien attacks Earth. They don't know, but Spock, it sounds like whale songs. So they travel back in time to 1987, San Francisco. And there's a scene when Scotty and everything, they go into this manufacturing plant. He pretends to be a manufacturing guy, and he's like, "Oh, I need this because they're going to build a tank to save the whales, but it won't. But regular metal won't hold it." So it's the funniest scene in the movie, where he puts him in front of a computer and he picks up and he says, "Computer," and you got to use the mouse. He's like, "Oh," so he picks up the mouse and he says, "Computer." It's like, no, use the keyboard.
Yeah, it talks into the mouse. Yeah.
So he's like, "Oh, keyboard, how quaint," and he starts super typing 1,000 words. And everyone's looking at all of the diagrams on the old Mac, and the guy's like, transparent aluminum? And and it's like, no, it's not how it works, but it's funny. And that's what you need on an iPhone. You need transparent aluminum. Come on, Scotty, make it work.
And we've talked to a lot of those manufacturers of the glass, and there is minor innovation, but it's also that part where you don't want it to scratch from every little blemish, but you also want it to be kind of hard. So you want it hard enough to protect against scratches, but you want it soft enough to protect against blows. Those 2 are very different things. Either it's shatter resistant or it's scratch resistant, and you got to kind of strike the middle ground between those 2. There's no real great answer, but that's neither here nor there. And by the way, batteries, don't hold your breath on that one either. We'll have to wait and see. But everyone, popzara.com, Nathan, how's your team doing? How everyone got their own assignments? What are they working on?
Doing on their stuff. Everyone's all over the place. Everyone else is traveling too, because everyone's traveling at the same time. Full disclosure, normally we head to California in June to cover E3. That's not happening this year, so I'm going to try to get out there anyway to have some fun. We didn't cover PAX this year because PAX is more of a fan base thing, and that's totally fine. And honestly, I think the press should leave PAX alone. I think PAX is kind of a vibrant, wonderful thing that's its own entity. So please don't cover PAX. Like, cover the games, but don't cover the show. It's
PAX
not
is
E3.
like that one music South
fun.
by Southwest. Yeah, PAX is right up there.
It's still fun. It's still vibrant. It's still what it used to be. To be honest with you, I don't even know if we're ever going to see E3 back again. I think the show by itself is obsolete. It's kind of like the Oscars. Like, the Oscars used to mean something, but if you look at it now, it's just sort of an obsolete shell. It doesn't mean anything anymore. And so I think if E3 does go the way of the dodo, then so be it.
Maybe if E3 can get their own Will Smith moment, maybe they can make a comeback.
I would love Will Smith. You know what? Will Smith will come back because he's Will Smith and he's still awesome. Even he shouldn't have smacked Chris Rock, but kudos to Chris Rock, by the way, for holding that stuff together. Well, he's a professional.
He is very much a professional.
He's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. So hey, ending on a Will Smith moment, but everyone, once again, popzara.com, computeramerica.com will have this up later today. And everyone, I want to thank you so much for tuning into the program. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us, even though you're at the airport. I hope your travels go well.
I love it.
All that good stuff. And your mobile setup went perfectly. We're really happy that it did.
Nice.
Everyone, computeramerica.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You still there?